Good morning, everyone. We're continuing here in the words of the Mesillas Yesharim, and I want to share with you an amazing story about the kayach, the power of the Mesillas Yesharim. This sefer that we're learning, the path of the just itself. I met yesterday with one of the ex-coaches of the Yeshiva University basketball team. He was a coach there several years ago, and he decided to institute a novel plan in order to help his team elevate themselves in their teamwork and in their playing and in their mastery of the court. And so he developed a program called Spirituality Before Physicality. What did it mean? It meant that every game, moments before the game would begin, they would go into the locker room, and the coach, the frum guy, the coach, would take out a Mesillas Yesharim, Path of the Just, and they would learn 10 minutes of Mesillas Yesharim before the game. And then once that they took care of this spirituality, then they would go for the physicality to win the game. And it was understood by the boys on the team that the reason that they're learning is that it should elevate them, it should bring them closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then when they get on the court, they're playing with Hashem. They're not only relying upon their finesse and their abilities. So he said the remarkable thing was that for 14 straight weeks, they were learning spirituality before physicality. They learned the Mesillas Yesharim. And 14 weeks in a row, they won every single game, which was unheard of for the YU basketball team. 1 week, for one reason or another, they didn't have time before the game began, and they didn't learn Mesillas Yesharim. They lost that game. They lost. The first game they lost in 14 weeks, they lost it. Everybody on the team said it's because we didn't do the spirituality before the physicality. And then following week, which was like the next 4 or 5 games of the season, they went back to Mesillas Yesharim. Before the game, they won every single game. And on top of that, they won the championship that year, which was like maybe the first time in history or many, many years for YU to do such a thing. So he told me that not only was that the power of Mesillas Yesharim, but what was uncanny was that whatever they learned about in that day before they would go and play the game, whatever the Ramchal was speaking about, so it would always be like a premonition almost to that which would take place during the game. So whatever they had the battle with on the courts, whatever the team was, he said, for example, one time, as we're going to get to in another day or so, we're going to get to the trait of kas, of anger. And he says, one time, as they were learning about the trait of anger in the Mesillas Yesharim, they got on the court and they realized it was the team which they had the most rivalry with, and the team which always ended up usually in fights and anger and yelling at each other. And since that they worked on the trait of anger before they got on the court, they completely avoided any sticky situation that was there, and they just went from beginning till the end. They played the game, and they won. So we should not underestimate the power that is locked inside here in the Sefer Mesillas Yesharim. As we've been learning all of these weeks, it's something that enhances a person's life. It elevates our approach, our outlook on ourselves, on our Yiddishkeit, on our Kadosh Baruch Hu, on our families, and our interpersonal relationships, in what's the tafkid, what's the purpose, why did our Kadosh Baruch Hu bring us here into this world, what does He want from us, how are we going to accomplish that. And therefore, if we continue to plug away in the learning of Mesillas Yesharim, and we continue to elevate ourselves, and we do it to the best of our l'shem shemaim, of our altruistic and pure intentions as possible, so then just as a basketball team was able to win 14 games straight, and then they lost one because they didn't learn, but then they got back on track and they won the last 4 or 5, and then they took the championship as well. So then we, in our own games and our battles of life that we are all going through, as long as we continue learning these precious words of Mesillas Yesharim, so it will be our spirituality before the physicality, before the emotional world that we sometimes find ourselves locked up in, before the physiological, before the world of challenges and nisyonos and tests. And the Mesillas Yesharim will be a guiding light to us, to continue to be the guiding light that will help us overcome so many areas and struggles that we have in our life. And then we too will be the winners of each day of our lives, the game that we have to play over here on the courts of Olam Hazeh, of this world, and eventually, Be'ez Hashem, we will be Zeiche to see that we are the champions over a lifetime of 120 years of hard work, of effort, of practice, of jumping in onto the court, playing the game, playing our enemies over there, the Yetzirah and all of his cronies, which are the enemies of life. But if we play the game properly, and we are skilled in our field, and we have the schus, the merits of Mesillas Yesharim behind us, and the special governing siyata d'shemai, the heavenly assistance of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then certainly we too will be champions in this world as HaKadosh Baruch Hu celebrates our accomplishments. Have a wonderful day.